Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Come on.
2 seconds. Do I turn that telly off? Thank you.
Right, we'll start with Sky Sports. On the line.
Yes, Roger Clark here. Hi, Brendan. How you doing?
Hi, Roger.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Let's get started then. First of all, we're obviously asking all managers today for their thoughts on Gérard Houllier sad passing yesterday. I don't know how much you would have crossed paths with him, but of course you had a shared history of managing Liverpool Football Club as well. So just give us your response and your thoughts on Gérard Houllier.
Yeah, it was a real shock. We were in a meeting yesterday morning here at the training ground, and the news came through. So now an awfully sad day for everyone connected with football. And I met Gérard a few times, like you say, when I managed at Liverpool. And he was such a lovely man and such a great football man. And yeah, my memories of him was that we had this connection, which was Liverpool. And once you manage Liverpool and you understand the unique pressures of there, even when I'd never met him before, the first time I met, it was as if we had known each other a lot longer because of the situations that we had both been in. And he was able to really support and help me in my time there. So, but I also know from working there, what he did to the training ground at Millwood, how he sort of revolutionised the whole place and made it into a real modern facility that allowed players to develop and grow. And also I know from some of the players there that he'd worked with, the influence that he had on them. So a really, really sad day for everyone connected in football, and of course for people that knew him.
Thanks for that. If we move on, I don't think we will have spoken to you since the Europa League draw. Your response to that, Slavia Prague. I know a lot of your fans are looking at it and thinking that would be a great away trip if fans were able to travel for that one. But your response to the draw itself on the football side of things.
Yeah, well, of course, from the football side, it's I think any team that gets to that side of the draw is a good side. Like you say, they've been unbeaten so far in their league. I think it was 18-19 season they beat Sevilla to get to the quarterfinals before they played Chelsea. So they'll be a very good side. And like I always say, all the teams that's in the European competitions to this stage, they've got confidence and got quality. But at least we know who we're playing. We can do some work on them over the next numbers of months and watch them closely, and then be ready for that time when it comes along in February.
Plenty of football to be played before then. Starting off with Everton, if I can ask you about, you'll be missing Johnny Evans. You've had to cope with a lot of missing players throughout the season so far. Are you covered there? Sionchu, is he back after he made a brief, a comeback quite recently? Is he ready to step in, or do you have other options there?
No, Cags is not quite ready yet. He's training well and coming along well, but he's just getting confidence back in the injury. So we don't want to force that, but hopefully within the next few weeks he can be back. I think we'll do what we've always done throughout the season. Like you said, we've had lots of players out. It's been unfortunate for us, but really the players that have been fit and available have done fantastic for us. So we'll do what we've done before, try and find a solution to get us through the game, that's what we'll look at.
I was going to ask you about that because you have had so many issues of players being out injured and so on. Is it a real testament to your squad that you've managed to fill those gaps and keep producing results?
Yeah, I think we'd identified it right at the beginning of the season before a ball was kicked that there was going to be an array of challenges for us this season. But knowing that, one, we'd have to be adaptable, and two, knowing that we were going to need everyone and trust everyone in the squad. So, and that's what we've tried to do throughout our European competitions and the league competitions. So, and the players have responded brilliantly. They understand that we'll always pick what is the right team we feel to get the result. And if they've started a game or been outside of the team, they train hard. They're very professional. And they get themselves ready for the next game, so that if they're asked to play, they're ready. So that's a huge testament to the environment that the players are working in, and and how they've created that themselves. So yeah, that's how we've played it up until now, and we'll continue to do that.
I'm going to ask you about Everton. Fantastic result for them last time out. They've been through a little tricky spell going up to that after starting the season so strongly. Is that a sign of just how tight this league is this season, and that it's so difficult to pick results, and teams can get off on a fantastic run, but just as easily go on a little run where they're struggling to find wins?
Yeah, and I think that's been across the board. I think it's like you say, they get a fantastic team of players. They started the season very well, lost a game, and then of course had some injuries as well, so it knocked their consistency a bit. But they arrived into our game on the back of arguably the best result of the season. They defended very well, very strong, and played well in the game against Chelsea. So under no illusion, this is again another really tough game for us. But yeah, it is so tight. There's like I say, lots of games. Some periods where the gaps between the games aren't so big. But yeah, you just have to get on with that and look to put in your best performance.
Just last one from me. I'm just talking about concussion. They're talking about there's a meeting this week where they're likely to vote through concussion replacements. Is that something presumably you're in favour with to try and get that sorted as soon as possible and get it implemented as soon as possible?
Yeah, very much so. I think on the back of Raúl Jiménez injury, and also looking at David Luiz at the time as well. Yeah, it's something that it makes sense. It's a logical decision that, if someone is badly hurt and they shouldn't be rushed to get back onto the pitch because you're a man down. So I think the protocols that you see in other sports, I think, would fit in very well with football in particular. So hopefully that can be the case when they do come together and meet.
Thanks for that, Brendan.
Cheers, thank you.
Okay, Naz Premji from the Premier League, please.
Hi, Brendan, you okay?
Hi, Naz.
Brendan, I wanted to ask you about the schedule and how pleased you are with your young squad and how you've sort of coped with it, because there is very little recovery time, especially for you with the 3 games in a week scenario with the Europa League, isn't it?
Yeah, I showed it to the players in pre-season that having qualified for European football, this is what being at the top end of the table gives you. Gives you lots of games, gives you lots of challenges, but it certainly can improve you as a player. Your preparation gets even more into focus. You really got to recover from games because only 2-3 days later you're playing again. So you have to ensure that your recovery strategy is right, your concentration's right, your mentality is right, and then of course playing in the games against, for example, European opposition, that helps you and improve as a player with those experiences, and then to come back and then get back into the Premier League domestic action again, you've got to be ready because every game is such a challenge. So yeah, I think we've all enjoyed it. We've all loved it. I've really enjoyed using the whole squad in the competitions. Players that maybe thinking they weren't going to get so much game time ended up playing a lot of games. But overall, the mentality of the squad has been first class, and yeah, they're only going to get better with more experiences.
I think going back to the Brighton game, you must have changed formations maybe 3 or 4 times in that fixture. Isn't it great that your squad is so adaptable and you've got players that can slot in many different areas?
Yeah, we actually changed it 3 times. So, but yeah, that's the types of players that I have and the types of players I like to work with. We in that first period of the game, it wasn't working so much for us in that first 15, 20 minutes when we didn't have the ball. So we made a change that we could feel could help us in the game. And then at halftime, we just changed it around again, just to sort of solidify the game. But in order to do that, you need to have bright, intelligent footballers, with good football brains. And thankfully, the players are able to cope with that without being spooked in the game, and they deal with it very, very well.
And I want to mention a couple of those. Mark Albright, I think it was, that played in 3 different positions, but the likes of James Justin and James Maddison, they're really flourishing at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, well, all those players, like Mark's a senior player here now, but he's been absolutely brilliant since the first day. Got an incredible attitude to his training. You know, he trains every day, whether he's in the team or not in the team, and he's proved a real valuable asset for me in my time here, as he has done for the club in his time. James Justin, I spoke on him last week. I think it was his 150th appearance the other night, and you have to remember, this is a boy that's jumped straight from League One into the Premier League, and he's so reliable, and I can play him in a number of positions, knowing that he can give his best and do and play to a high level. So he's been absolutely brilliant for us since he's come into the team. And James has just been unfortunate towards the end of last season. He suffered injuries and he's been a little bit sort of on and off with those injuries early this season. But once you see he's starting to get back to the level, he's one of the best players in the Premier League, which is a huge testament to his quality, because he's a wonderful player. And you see him the other night, produced a great performance.
And in terms of this period up to Christmas and after it, Brendan, is it just a case of ticking the games off and getting as many points on the board as you can?
Yeah, you say ticking them off. We're excited by them. We don't want to just win, lose or draw, move on. I think it's one where we want to go into each game with a really positive outlook that we can get a result. I trust my players. Whatever team we play, we'll pick an aggressive team to go and look to win the game, and that's what we'll look at in the Everton game. Whatever happens in that, then of course we'll give everything and then move on to the weekend. But no, it's been great for us. We've been used to playing a lot of games, so it's something that we'll look to continue to manage. We've done that since the start of the season, playing in Europe, and it feels like now there'll be no different. So obviously the game on over the Christmas period is going to test everyone. That's for sure. You play a Saturday and a Monday, so that'll be a challenge. But no, other than that, we'll just get ready for every game.
Brilliant, Brendan. Thank you very much, and best of luck.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks.
Ian Abrahams from TalkSport, please.
Hi, Brendan. How are you?
Yes, how you doing? Parked up?
Parked up, absolutely. The title race. This is the closest title race we've probably had for many, many years, of which Leicester are in it. Do you think it's going to be like this right to the end of the season?
I think so. I think it'll be tight. I think the nature of the league this season, with all the games and the compactness of the games, and of course the quality of the teams, I would think, it'll be tighter than what it's been over the last couple of seasons. I mean, between the pack, but there's still such a long way to go. I think that obviously all the teams that have been playing European football now have got a period through now till February where they won't play so many games, so teams might be a little bit fresher and whatnot. But no, it's been an interesting start, and it's nice to be up and be in and around it.
I guess from Leicester's point of view, from your point of view, during the 5,000 to 1 season where Leicester won the title, and everybody kind of like went, they're not going to win it, right up until maybe the Sunday they won it. No one's going to make that mistake again about you or Leicester, are they? No,
I don't think they make the mistake about anyone. I think it's like you say, 5,000 to 1. I think what Leicester showed that season was that everything is possible. So I don't think one of the greatest stories, and obviously any sporting code, but no, I think from that season, I think the odds have dramatically been cut down on every team. So not quite the same, but it's been great. See the likes of Southampton up there, ourselves up there, and West Ham and the other teams. So yeah, it's the job of every team to try and challenge and be up there for as long as you can.
Jamie Vardy is obviously massively important to you. I just wonder, do you think he's underrated by the greater footballing public? They all talk about the goals that Harry Kane scores and the goals that other big strikers score at big clubs like Salah at Liverpool and Aguero at City. Do you think, away from Leicester, Jamie Vardy should be loved a little bit more by everybody?
I think there's a real genuine respect for his qualities. He's obviously not on the international front anymore, Jamie, and whether he's deserved more chances at that level or not, that's always open for debate. But you can't doubt his quality, and I don't think many people do. I think that, if anything, sometimes it maybe gets taken for granted. But a sensational striker whose numbers since he's been in the Premier League has been absolutely incredible. You know, you think when he arrived into the Premier League, you think of his journey. You know, this isn't a guy that's been in it since he was 17, 18. You know, he's mid-20s before he arrives, being a professional, and then into the Premier League later. So it's absolutely remarkable, the striker he is, and maybe because of his path, maybe doesn't get highlighted as much as what he should, but he really is a top-level striker that I'm very fortunate to work with.
The best you work with, because you work with some good ones in England and Scotland. The best.
Yeah, I don't like to go down that route.
Yeah,
you know, because I always try to respect all the players I've worked with, and you know, like you say, with like Houllier at Liverpool, and these guys, they were real top players. But it's each individual. Where I'm working here now in the Premier League at this moment, Jamie is very clearly up there with the best strikers in the world.
Last one quickly from me. You were talking about concussion subs before. I think there's a Premier League meeting on Thursday. Would you like to see them bring in the rule of 5 subs in the Premier League now? I mean, it's in the EFL, it's in every league around Europe, but you're still having to manage this hectic schedule with just 3 substitutes.
Yeah, it's something I mentioned a few weeks back when I was asked, Ian, at the beginning of the season. I felt that 3, keep it the same, purely because that's how we've always worked. I thought it worked well and would work well for us. But as the season has gone on, and you really feel the compactness in the games, and you try to support the players' welfare that little bit more, then having the opportunity to use 5, but it's also to get more players onto the bench as well. You know, because you're trying to look after players' welfare at this time also, in this pandemic. So it allows you to involve more players, bring them closer to the squad, and certainly, from my perspective, it would work well.
Good luck tomorrow. Happy Christmas.
You too.
Cheers.
Okay, Ian Stringer from Radio Leicester, please. Ian Stringer.
Having his lunch.
Yeah.
We'll hang on a couple of moments for Ian. Are you there, Ian? You're unmuted this end, Ian. Okay, we might have to come back to Ian then. In the meantime, if we just take it into the written section, we'll say goodbye to our broadcast colleagues. And
Here. Just a couple of questions. Next 3 games, Everton, Spurs and Man U. Will that kind of define your status as title challengers, do you think?
Not really. No, I think it's just our only focus is the next game. That's our mantra. Just look at Everton. All the games are tough at this level, no matter who you play. And our focus just purely on Everton, and then we'll take it from there.
You mentioned earlier that obviously, there are other teams like Everton, West Ham and sort of Southampton. Now, in the past, they've not always been in the mix at the sort of top of the league. How kind of surprised are you to see them there, and how healthy do you think that is for the league and the game?
Well, I think it shows you how competitive the league is. The likes of Southampton, it may be a surprise, but it's not really when you actually, you look at the actual squad of players that they have, and you look at the team that they have. They get some outstanding players. Like Sir Ryan Bertrand, he's a Champions League winner. Ryan and international players all across their team, and then Danny Ings up front. They've got one of the best strikers around. So and with Ralph as manager, got great experiences. And has done a fantastic job there. So it's not surprising at all. Our job for all us, other teams outside of the so-called bigger clubs, is to look to sustain that. And that's always difficult over the course of the length of the season when you have so many games. But it's our job to try and hang in there and like I say, continue with the good starts.
And just finally from me, a lot of the focus, you mentioned those big name clubs. So you got Jose at Spurs and Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. Does that kind of put you guys under the radar? And if so, is that kind of what you quite like to be?
No, listen, it doesn't really matter to us. I think there's always going to be the spotlight shining on Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. That's the nature of the game in this country. But for us, it's okay whichever way. There's always going to be the spotlight on you, wherever you are. But for us, it's mainly just concentrating on performing well and improving and see where it takes us.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Brendan. Good luck.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, we're just going to see if we can hear Ian again this time. Ian, are you there?
Yeah, I hope so. Brendan, can you hear me?
Yes. You enjoy your lunch there?
Yeah, if only, mate. If only. So you told us about Soyuncu isn't going to be available. I wondered whether Timothy Castagna or Ricardo are available, and indeed, has James Maddison's knee recovered okay?
Yes, yeah, James should be fine. Timothy, we'll wait and get the go-ahead on that later. If it's not for this game, then we think he'll be fine for Tottenham, and Ricky's still a little bit away.
On injuries, and you've talked about the fixture congestion, obviously the added complication over this festive period and over this season is you've been trying to mitigate COVID as much as you possibly can, and clearly have done a good job. Have you had to brief your players, or has there been an increased risk in the fact that movement of people over the course of Christmas is going to be more prevalent? Have you had to warn them or put any measures in place to make sure you don't get any positive tests?
No, we've obviously spoke a few weeks ago, just reminding players and of our responsibility, especially around at this time, and when it looked like maybe there was going to be an easing up of some of the restrictions. But thus far, we've worked really well in our bubble and look to control as much as we possibly can, and that message is still in place. We're entering in a really busy schedule. There's lots of games, lots of preparation needed, lots of concentration. Got to really recover well, and I don't see anything much changing in terms of how the players have been. They've been super responsible, focused on their work, and we'll look to continue that way.
Carlo Ancelotti said today that in order to stop Leicester City, he said don't allow the Foxes to counter-attack. Are you a counter-attacking team?
I hope we have a little bit of everything. I think that what we have shown this season, which has been fantastic from a coaching perspective, is the ways in which we have won games. We've won games in counter-attack. We've won games in pressing high up the pitch. We've won games whilst we've been sat in a mid-block. So I think the evolution of this team is that they can win in different ways, and that's what you want as a coach. And I think if you look at any really good side, if you look at the current champions in terms of Liverpool, they will press the game. They will be aggressive in the game, win it high up the pitch. They'll also sit in a phase where they can rest but press and win. And then in other moments, you see them breaking out from deep in their own half and away. So I think a really good side has balance. They can play in the different phases of the game. And I would like to think if you've watched us fairly regular over the season, you can recognise that, we can break out of speed with Vards and one or two of the other players, but we can also play when the game is tight.
Finally, Brendan, a lot of your players are getting headlines, as you've already pointed out. People like James Justin, James Maddison, of course, Jamie Vardy. I happen to think that Kasper Schmeichel's having one of his best seasons that I've witnessed at the football club. Depending on whose stats you listen to, this is going to be his 295th game for the club. He's hurtling towards 400. He's up against Jordan Pickford, of course, England's number one. I just wonder how interesting Kasper is as a character and as a professional to your football club and to your team. He wears the armband, I know, as he approaches 400 appearances and he comes up against England's number one. How important is his character to your team?
Well, he's vital. I think that you wouldn't swap him for any other goalkeeper. You know, watching him on a day-to-day basis, you see the hunger that he has to succeed, the work that he puts in. He's up for every single game he plays, no matter where it is and what competition it is. He makes big saves in the game. You know, he had a really important save for us at 0-0, and he's done that in a number of games this season. And then normally by the end of the game, when you've won or you're comfortable or whatever, it doesn't seem to get talked so much about. But he makes a huge contribution. You know, you get Vars up the other end, scoring goals, penetrating, brilliant. Down on the other end with Kasper, he's equally as important to us. He's been absolutely sensational since he came in. Off the pitch, he's a wonderful leader. He's always there to encourage and push some of the younger players. You know, he knows the standard and he knows the level of what it takes to be successful. And he's been outstanding this season.
Thank you for your time. Good luck tomorrow, Brendan.
Cheers. Thanks, Ian. Thank you.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there, guys. We'll give our broadcast colleagues a chance to leave the